One of the big things when you get into saltwater fish that's really important is quarantining. Once you start getting, $100 worth of livestock in your tanks, quarantining is a smart idea. This is a 10-gallon tank, sponge filter, $6 off eBay, real cheap. Whisper 40, you can find them at PetSmart, not an expensive thing. LED light, not necessary, nice to have. Glass top for jumper fish. I had a clown in there quarantined for about a month without a glass top and it did just fine. Currently there is a really awesome little long-nosed red hawkfish in there. He's so cool. Got a little bit of PVC for hiding spots, supposedly safe for the water. Fluval 150 watt heater. The only reason I have it so big is that way if one of the heaters in either my saltwater or my freshwater tank happens to go out, I can still use this 150 watt and it'll heat it reasonably well. Sponge filters are good for quarantine tanks. You do need to keep an eye on your nitrates. I swear by API Quick Start for saltwater quarantine tanks and for doing freshwater tanks in general. That's the bacteria is super good in there. It's much better than the API stress zyme. So my specific gravity in here is 1.016, real low. I kind of acclimated this guy as quickly as you would like a freshwater angelfish. I didn't drip him. I just kind of poured like a half a cup of water in there every few minutes, just to, it's kind of like a freshwater dip, but kind of not. That way, all the parasites, they don't do so hot on him. So that said, he was at the place that I bought him for a couple months, so he is pretty healthy. Water temperature is 77.6 degrees, assuming that thermometer is accurate. The Fluval heater does a good job. The only thing about him is that they cannot be fully submerged. That much of it has to be out of the water. Quarantining is a big deal. Quarantining is a big deal. I can't emphasize it enough. It's one thing when you're first starting out with your first fish just to drop your fish in. That's not a big deal. But once you get $100 worth of livestock in there and you put a fish in there that's sick, then it infects all the other fish and then you're screwed. So what I do is I try to quarantine for a month. At 1.016, I kind of let it bounce around a little bit with the clown and it did just fine. Technically they're damsels, so they're hardy fish, as are these little hawks. This is the long-nosed red hawk, so they're considered a little bit more reef safe. Ideally, they wouldn't eat any like skunk cleaners or coral bandeds. Definitely not a coral banded, but I think they might be able to choke down like a sexy shrimp or otherwise. But that's not the point. The point is to quarantine. You can set up a quarantine tank for cheap. Once you invest, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 into a tank, a couple $100 for a quarantine tank or less, depends on the supplies you get, totally worth it. You can quarantine corals, you can do your dips with them, you can use it as a hospital tank if you have a sick fish. I had to drop my clown in a little early so I could quarantine my freshwater angelfish, which unfortunately died, but it's nice to have. Sponge filters are highly, highly underrated. They do a good job. This one's rated for 20-gallon tanks. So that's the one advice that I would say to have with saltwater is be patient and quarantine. And usually you'll be all right.